Welcome to the NewsHour. As immigration crackdowns spread to new cities across the country, Americans overwhelmingly disapprove of the actions of ICE and customs enforcement agents. That's according to a new PBS News NPR Marist poll. Our political correspondent Lisa Desjardins joins us with more on how public opinion is shifting and how it may play into the debate on Capitol Hill. Hi, Lisa.
Hi.
What do Americans think about ICE? What does this poll show us?
These numbers are in big, bold print that the majority of Americans very clearly do not approve of what ICE is doing, and they're doing it by a large and growing margin. Here's what we got in our poll. 65% of Americans told us that they believe ICE has gone too far. Now, what's interesting about this is when you look at how that compares to last year in June, at that time it was 54% of Americans. That is a very big jump. And also, June was an interesting pivot point as well. That is when the president first sent ICE investigations and roving raids there into Los Angeles. Well, of course, this poll, the 65% number you just saw, happened in the wake of the killing of Alex Preddy, the review of that video, and the way the administration reacted to that. Now, something else in this numbers shows is that concern rose, interestingly, across political parties. So I'm going to take a look at that. There is a classic partisan divide here about the idea that ICE has gone too far. Democrats overwhelmingly think that. But I want to draw your attention to that bottom number. 27% of Republicans now think ICE has gone too far. That is 7 points higher than it was last year. And honestly, William, that is some of the highest disapproval ratings I've ever seen by Republicans for a Trump policy. They generally are in lockstep with this president.
Separate from these numbers, it's hard not to see that these videos and images have been really resonating with people. What else does this poll tell us about how people are feeling?
Right. I think it's important to understand the feelings that people are going through and what it's reflecting here politically. Remember that President Trump ran on something in particular, which is the idea of safety. And we're seeing in these numbers real questions about how Americans feel towards their safety. So let's take a look at some of those numbers. We asked how ICE is making Americans feel about their own safety. You can see that 20% at the top, about 22%, feel more safe because of ICE. Some in the middle are on either side, more or less safe. But look at that 50% number at the bottom. That is 50% of Americans, William, who feel much less safe because of ICE, a law enforcement agency that is supposed to protect people. Now, I'm also always interested in sort of the human interest stories here. What's pushing this? What groups are responding? And the story here is a very clear one about gender. Let's look at the divide over which people feel much less safe because of ICE. It's 41% of men, but it's 57% of women. And we know that women are a critical demographic, especially in midterm elections, especially in swing suburban districts. Another question people may be asking is, what does this mean for President Trump? Well, his approval ratings are about the same, 39%. But there is something significant happening with his disapproval ratings. Let's take a look at that. When you look at that bottom figure, how many people strongly disapprove of the job President Trump is doing, it is now at 51%. That is a majority of Americans and also the largest figure we've seen for him.
Well, these numbers come out as the Department of Homeland Security, which oversees ICE, is about to run out of money. And that's because there's this ongoing debate on Capitol Hill. The Democrats have put forward some reforms that they want to see pertaining to ICE. What is it that they want?
They announced this last night. Let's look at their list of 10 things that they want. I'll go through them quickly here. Body cameras, no masks for ICE officers. Officers would have to identify themselves. They don't want the paramilitary uniforms and equipment. Limits near schools, churches, and polling places. Democrats want judicial warrants, cooperation with local investigations, basic standards for detention and use of force, and no racial profiling. But, William, already some of these are red lines for Republicans. Let's look at those. Republicans say they can't abide by the no masks or the officers identifying themselves for safety of the officers, also have problems with the judicial warrants. And those profiling standards might be difficult because Democrats want to expand that to a wider range of things. So right now we're waiting to see what happens with talks, but there's nothing in earnest quite yet.
So what are the chances for a deal?
Right now, I have to say, I think it's honestly a long shot. My reporting is that staff are talking behind the scenes, but Republicans are frustrated. They want to have direct talks with Democrats. That hasn't happened yet. Democrats, for their part, behind the scenes will tell you they think this is going to be between them and President Trump, but they're running out of time, as you say. Just a week I think we are headed toward another week of talking about a possible shutdown, probably another short-term funding bill. But as to these ICE concerns that the country has, right now, a bipartisan deal looks like a long shot.
Lisa Desjardins, as always, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Support journalism you trust. Support PBS News. Donate now, or even better, start a monthly contribution today.